I received a text from my father on a Tuesday morning while sitting at my office desk. The message was cold and direct. Don't come to the family reunion this weekend. They're cutting ties with me. No explanation. No discussion. I stared at the screen for 30 seconds, then typed back a single word. Understood. I didn't argue, didn't ask why. I simply opened my laptop, logged into my bank's business portal, and began the process of removing my name from the $3.1 million loan I co-signed for my family's construction company 3 years ago. My fingers moved across the keyboard with steady purpose as I navigated through the bank's online system. The loan details appeared on my screen in stark black and white. $3.1 million. Business expansion loan for Harper Construction, LLC. Co-signed by Floyd Harper. That was me. Floyd Harper, senior project manager at a tech firm here in Austin, Texas. 32 years old, stable career, apparently stupid enough to trust my own family. I remembered the day I signed those papers like it was yesterday. I was sitting at my father's dining table, the heavy oak one that had been in the family since I was a kid. My father Marcus sat across from me, his weathered hands pushing the documents toward me. My older brother Derek stood behind him, arms crossed, that expression on his face I could never quite read. They both promised it was just a formality. The business needed my credit score, my stable employment history, my clean financial record to qualify for the expansion loan. Derek had filed for bankruptcy 5 years earlier after a failed restaurant investment, so his credit was shot. My father had some assets, but not enough to meet the bank's requirements alone. My credit score at the time was 790. My annual income was $120,000. On paper, I was the perfect co-signer, and they swore, both of them, that I'd never have to worry about payments. This was their business, their responsibility. My signature was just ink on paper, they said. A formality to get the bank's approval. I believed them because they were family. I called the bank's business loan department and asked for someone who could help me with a co-signer removal. The woman who answered introduced herself as Patricia, and her voice had that professional warmth that banking representatives always cultivate. I explained what I wanted to do as calmly as I could manage. Patricia listened, then walked me through the process. Removing myself as a co-signer required either the primary borrower's consent or a complete refinancing of the loan without my name attached. She said she could send me the official forms, but I'd need to coordinate with the primary borrower. I told her to send everything. She did, right there while I was on the phone. Within minutes, the forms appeared in my email inbox. I filled them out methodically. Name, signature, date, electronic submission. The system processed my request and displayed a confirmation message. Co-signer removal request submitted. Primary borrower will be notified within 24 hours. If no alternative co-signer provided within 30 days, loan will be called for immediate repayment or restructuring. Perfect. I sat back in my office chair and stared at the confirmation screen. No anger churned in my chest. No desire for revenge. Just a cold, clear sense of finality. I'd been the family scapegoat for as long as I could remember. Every achievement I earned was somehow diminished. Every success was met with subtle resentment instead of celebration. When I graduated college, the first in our family to do so, my father's comment was that I'd wasted 4 years when I could have been learning real work in construction. When I got my first tech job, Derek said I was abandoning my roots. When I got promoted to senior project manager, my mother told me not to forget where I came from, as if success somehow erased my history. And now they'd sent me a text message. Not a phone call, not a conversation, just a cold dismissal via text. Don't come to the reunion. We're cutting ties. Like I was some acquaintance they were tired of, not their son and brother. I went home that evening to my apartment in downtown Austin. I ordered Chinese takeout, ate it while watching a documentary about deep-sea creatures, and went to bed at 10:30. My phone sat on the nightstand, silent. No messages from my family asking if I was okay. No calls wondering what I thought about the text. Just silence. I slept better than I had in months. Wednesday morning arrived with sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. I reached for my phone out of habit, expecting the usual news alerts and work emails. Instead, my screen showed 78 missed calls. My heart didn't race with panic. It dropped with understanding. 32 calls from my father, 29 from Derek, 12 from my mother Sandra, 5 from an unknown number. I opened my text messages and found 43 unread texts, each one more frantic than the last. The voicemails started calm. My father's first message, left at 6:15 in the morning. Floyd, we need to talk. Call me back. By the 10th message, his voice had shifted to something harder. Floyd, this isn't a game. Call me immediately. My brother's messages followed a similar trajectory, starting with false casualness and ending with barely contained rage. But it was the last voicemail that made me sit up in bed. A man's voice I didn't recognize, shaking with what sounded like genuine fear. Floyd, this is Gerald Hoffman. I'm the accountant for Harper Construction. I need you to call me immediately. This is catastrophic. The bank notified us this morning. Please call me back. I got out of bed, made coffee, and listened to the rest of the messages while the machine brewed. My mother's voicemails were tearful, begging me to fix whatever I'd done. Derek's were threatening. My father's were a mixture of anger and something that might have been desperation. I didn't call any of them back. Not yet. I went to work that Wednesday morning like it was any other day. I attended my 9 o'clock stand-up meeting with my development team. I reviewed code for a new feature launch. I ate lunch at my desk while responding to emails. Around 10:30, my personal cell phone rang again. The unknown number from the earlier missed calls. I stepped into an empty conference room and answered. Floyd Harper speaking. Oh, thank God. The man's voice was breathless with relief. Floyd, this is Gerald Hoffman. I'm the accountant for Harper Construction. We spoke on the phone once, maybe 2 years ago, about some tax documents. I vaguely remembered. Right. What can I do for you, Gerald? I need you to understand something. The situation is extremely serious. He was 62, I would later learn, and had been working with my father's company for 15 years. Right now, he sounded like a man watching his world collapse. The bank received your co-signer removal request yesterday afternoon. Their automated system flagged the loan for immediate review. This morning at 8 o'clock, a bank representative called your father directly. I said nothing, just waited. Without you as co-signer, the loan no longer meets their approval criteria. Your brother's credit history, the bankruptcy, it disqualifies him. Your father has some assets, but not enough to satisfy the bank's security requirements. They're giving us 30 days to either find a new qualified co-signer, provide additional collateral worth $1.5 million, or pay off the entire loan balance. And how much is the current balance? I asked, though I suspected I knew. $2.7 million. I looked out the conference room window at the Austin skyline. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? Gerald's voice climbed an octave. Floyd, the company has maybe $300,000 in liquid assets right now. We're extended across multiple projects. The revenue is good, but it's all tied up in ongoing contracts. Without this loan in good standing, our bonding company won't issue new bonds. We have 3 major contracts that depend on those bonds, worth over $4 million in revenue. If we can't get those bonds, we lose the contracts. If we lose the contracts, the company goes under. 23 people lose their jobs. Your mother's entire retirement is invested in this business. I have my own savings tied up as a minority partner. That sounds like poor financial planning, I said quietly. Floyd, please, I'm begging you. Whatever happened between you and your family, this is bigger than that. This will destroy everything your father built. Gerald, let me ask you something. Did my father tell you why he cut me out of the family? Silence stretched between us. Then, no. He just said there were personal issues. Family matters. I received a text message yesterday morning. Not a phone call. Not a face-to-face conversation. A text message telling me not to come to the family reunion and that they were cutting ties with me. No explanation. No discussion. After everything I've done for this family, after co-signing a $3 million loan that I had absolutely no stake in, after years of being treated like an outsider at my own family gatherings, so I responded with the same energy they gave me. I understood their message. and I protected myself from future liability. But this is business, Floyd. This is different. Then they should have treated me like family instead of a convenient signature on a loan document. Gerald tried to argue more, his voice taking on a pleading quality that made me uncomfortable. I ended the call politely but firmly. Within 3 minutes, my father called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. I declined the call. On the 4th attempt, I answered, "You need to fix this right now." No greeting, no hello. Just my father's voice, hard as concrete, the same tone he used when I was a kid and had disappointed him. Fix what, exactly? Don't play stupid, Floyd. The bank called me this morning. You removed yourself from the loan. You're going to put your name back on it today. Actually, I'm not. This isn't a request. You're right. It's not. It's my decision, and I've made it. We'll lose everything because of you. No, Dad. You'll lose everything because of your own choices. I'm just protecting myself. Protecting yourself? His voice rose to a shout. From what? From your own family? Yes, actually. From the family that sent me a text message yesterday cutting me out. So yes, I'm protecting myself from you. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? Walking around with your fancy tech job, your college education, looking down on honest construction work. Derek told me what you said at Christmas. How you told your girlfriend the business was small time. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What are you talking about? I never said that. I complimented Derek on the company's growth. I was proud of what you'd built. Don't lie to me, Floyd. Derek heard you. He heard every word. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Derek had lied. My own brother had fabricated a conversation, twisted my words or invented them entirely, and poisoned my father against me. The golden child protecting his position, eliminating any potential threat to his status. Derek lied to you, Dad. My son doesn't lie to me. Apparently one of them does, I said, and hung up. I was shaking, not with fear, but with a kind of clarity that felt almost like relief. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't fixable with conversation or explanation. This was the truth of my family dynamic, exposed and undeniable. My phone rang again immediately. A different number this time, one I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Floyd, my brother Derek's voice, but the tone was different from his voicemails. Colder, more controlled. You want to destroy this family? Fine, but you're going down with us. What are you talking about? That loan contract has a clause. If you remove yourself as co-signer and it causes material harm to the business, you're liable for damages. Our lawyer is already drafting the lawsuit. We'll take everything you have, your apartment, your savings, your job reputation. You'll spend the next 5 years in court fighting us. Put your name back on the loan, or we'll bury you. He hung up before I could respond. I checked my email. Sure enough, there was a new message from a law firm called Whitmore and Associates in Dallas. The subject line read, "Notice of intent to file suit for breach of fiduciary duty and tortious interference." I opened it with steady hands and began to read. I sat in my apartment that Wednesday evening with my laptop open, reading the legal letter for the 3rd time. Whitmore and Associates had written 5 pages of dense legal language, but the core message was clear. They were claiming I had a fiduciary duty as a co-signer, with knowledge of my integral role in the business's financial stability. According to them, I couldn't capriciously withdraw support in a manner calculated to cause harm. They argued that I knew my removal would trigger a default situation, and my actions constituted intentional interference with business relationships and contracts. It was aggressive. It was threatening. And if I was honest, it scared me. I called Aaron Kimball, a friend from college who practiced business law here in Austin. We'd kept in touch over the years, met for drinks occasionally, talked about work and life. He answered on the 2nd ring. "Floyd, how's it going, man? I need a lawyer, preferably someone I can trust." His tone shifted immediately from casual to professional. What happened? I spent 20 minutes explaining everything. The text from my father, removing myself from the loan, the panicked calls, and now this legal threat. Aaron listened without interrupting. which I appreciated. When I finished, I heard him typing on his computer. Send me that letter and the original loan documents. I need to see exactly what we're dealing with. I forwarded everything. Aaron went quiet for a few minutes while he read. When he spoke again, his voice carried a mixture of reassurance and caution. Okay. First, the good news. This letter is mostly aggressive posturing. Co-signers have a legal right to remove themselves from loans. The fiduciary duty argument is weak because you have no ownership stake in the company. You're not a partner, not a board member, not even an employee. You're just a co-signer who decided to protect his own financial interests. That's completely legal. And the bad news? The bad news is that if they actually file this lawsuit, it'll be expensive and time-consuming to defend, even though you'll probably win. The real danger is if they try to prove you acted with malicious intent. Did you know your removal would cause them problems? I thought about how to answer honestly. Yes, I knew they needed my signature to maintain the loan. But they cut me out of the family first, Aaron. I was protecting myself from future liability. I didn't want to be on the hook if their business failed. That's a legitimate reason. A court would likely agree, but they'll try to make it ugly. They'll paint you as vindictive, as someone who deliberately sabotaged his own family's business out of spite. Can they win with that argument? Probably not. But they can make your life hell trying. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the weight of the situation settling on my shoulders. What should I do? Let me do some research on Harper Construction. I want to see what their actual financial situation looks like. In the meantime, don't communicate with your family without me present, or at least on the phone. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Every conversation needs to be documented. We talked for a few more minutes about next steps, then hung up. I tried to eat dinner but had no appetite. I tried to watch television but couldn't focus. Finally, around 9 o'clock, Aaron called me back. Floyd, I found something. I pulled public records on Harper Construction, checked their business filings, looked at liens and complaints. Your family's business is in worse shape than that accountant admitted. My stomach tightened. How bad? There are 3 recent liens filed against the company by suppliers. Unpaid bills totaling over $100,000. 3 separate subcontractors have filed complaints with the state licensing board about non-payment. And there's a pending lawsuit from a client claiming defective work on a commercial project. A shopping center renovation where apparently the roof is leaking. They're claiming $400,000 in damages. I felt cold. They never mentioned any of this. Of course not. Floyd, your family's business isn't just struggling. It's failing. This isn't about losing you as a co-signer. They're drowning. And they were planning to drag you down with them. I thought about the loan, about my signature on those documents, about what would have happened if the business had collapsed while I was still legally tied to their debt. So removing myself was exactly the right move. Absolutely. But there's more. If their business is this unstable, and they took out a $3 million loan for expansion, where did that money actually go? Legitimate businesses don't expand during financial crisis. They consolidate. It was a good question, one I didn't have an answer to. Thursday passed in a blur of work and stress. I kept my phone on silent, letting calls from my family go to voicemail. My mother left 6 messages, each one more emotional than the last. She cried, she begged, she accused. In her final message, her voice turned cold. You're killing your father, Floyd. I hope you can live with that. That evening, I was making dinner when someone pounded on my apartment door. Heavy, aggressive knocking that made my neighbors peek out into the hallway. I looked through the peephole and saw Derek. I considered not answering. But something in me, some stubborn refusal to be intimidated in my own home, made me open the door. I left the chain lock engaged. We need to talk. Derek's face was flushed, his jaw clenched. We can talk through the door. Let me in, Floyd. No. He stared at me for a long moment, then shoved his shoulder against the door. The chain lock held, but barely. I stepped back, already reaching for my phone. Derek shoved again, harder, and the chain lock screw pulled partially out of the doorframe. He pushed his way inside. I hit record on my phone's voice memo app and slipped it into my pocket, microphone exposed. You need to leave, Derek. Not until we settle this. He moved into my living room like he owned the place, his presence filling the space with tension. You think you're so smart. Always did. Always walking around like you were better than me. I never thought that. Liar. He pointed at me, his finger shaking. You went to college. You got the fancy job. You make 6 figures while I'm out there busting my back in the heat every day. And still, it wasn't enough for you. You had to destroy what Dad built. I didn't destroy anything. I protected myself from your failing business. Failing because of you. His voice rose to a shout. We needed that loan to stay afloat. We needed you, and you just cut us off. You cut me off first. Or did you forget the text Dad sent me? That was my idea. Derek's admission came out with a bitter satisfaction. I told Dad you were talking trash about the business. I told him you thought you were too good for us. I convinced him to cut you out before you did more damage. So you lied. You made up things I never said, poisoned Dad against me, and got me kicked out of the family. And now you're mad that I protected myself from the consequences? You were always the favorite in your own mind. Always thought you were special. I just showed Dad the truth. The truth that you fabricated. The truth that you're a selfish piece of garbage who would rather see his family homeless than help them. I felt my hands clench into fists, but I kept them at my sides. Get out of my apartment. Or what? Or I call the police and have you arrested for breaking and entering. Derek took a step toward me, close enough that I could smell the coffee on his breath. You do that, and I promise you'll regret it. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you are. I'll contact your employer. Tell them you're under investigation for fraud. I'll spread it around that you stole from your own family. I'll destroy your reputation the same way you're destroying ours. I recorded this entire conversation, I said quietly, including the part where you admitted to lying to Dad about me. Get out of my apartment now, or I'm calling 911. Derek's face went pale, then red. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he turned and walked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I stood there shaking, my phone still recording. After a full minute, I stopped the recording and saved it to my cloud storage. Then I called Aaron. I need to file a police report and get a restraining order, I said when he answered. Derek just broke into my apartment and threatened me, and I have the whole thing on audio. Friday morning brought a new level of chaos. I received an email from the bank, but it wasn't what I expected. The subject line read, Potential Fraud Investigation. My hands were unsteady as I opened it. Dear Mr. Harper, as co-signer on business loan account ending in 4729, we are writing to inform you that our fraud prevention department has flagged multiple irregularities requiring investigation. Unusual wire transfers, payments to offshore accounts, and documentation discrepancies have been identified. We request your cooperation in this matter. Please contact us within 48 hours to schedule an interview. Please be advised that if fraud is confirmed, all parties to the loan, including co-signers, may face legal consequences. I read it twice, then a third time. My family hadn't just been failing. They'd been doing something criminal with the loan money, and my name was on it. I couldn't sleep Thursday night. The bank's email sat in my inbox like evidence of a crime I didn't commit but was somehow tied to. Friday morning arrived with gray skies and the kind of heavy air that promised rain. I called Aaron at 7 in the morning, not caring that it was early. The bank thinks there's fraud, I said without preamble when he answered. They sent me an email about irregularities with the loan, wire transfers, offshore accounts. Aaron, what if they think I was involved? Forward me that email right now. I'm getting dressed. Meet me at my office in 45 minutes. The drive downtown felt surreal. Austin traffic crawled along, people heading to normal jobs with normal problems, while my entire life seemed to be imploding around me. I parked in the garage beneath Aaron's building and took the elevator to the 12th floor. Aaron met me at the door to his office, already in a suit despite the early hour. His face was serious, in a way I'd never seen before, not even in college, when we'd pulled all-nighters studying for the bar exam. Sit down. We need to talk about how serious this is. Saturday. He pulled up the email on his computer screen. If the bank suspects loan fraud, and you're listed as a co-signer, you could be implicated, even if you didn't participate. Prosecutors sometimes charge everyone connected to fraudulent loans, then sort out guilt later. The assumption is that co-signers must have known about irregular use of funds. But I didn't know. I wasn't involved in the business at all. I believe you. But we need to prove it. We need to cooperate fully with the bank's investigation and with federal investigators if this involves wire fraud. We need to distance you from any wrongdoing and establish you as a victim, not a participant. Federal investigators. My voice came out hoarse. Wire fraud is a federal crime, Floyd. If they were moving money across state lines or internationally, the FBI gets involved. I felt like I might throw up. Aaron made calls while I sat in his office trying to process what was happening. By 10 o'clock, we had an appointment with the bank's fraud investigation unit for that afternoon. Aaron stressed that I should be completely honest, provide all documentation they requested, and make it clear I had no involvement in business operations. We drove to the bank together. Patricia, the loan officer I'd spoken with earlier, met us in the lobby with a man in his 40s wearing a dark suit and an expression that revealed nothing. Mr. Harper, I'm Raymond Chen from our fraud investigation unit. Thank you for coming in on short notice. They led us to a conference room with glass walls and a long table. Raymond opened a laptop and pulled up documents I'd never seen before. Mr. Harper, I need to ask you some questions about this loan. Were you aware of how the funds were being used? No. I co-signed 3 years ago at my father's request. He said it was for business expansion and equipment purchases. I wasn't involved in any decisions about how the money was spent. Raymond turned his laptop screen toward me. These are transfer records for the loan account. Over the past 3 years, approximately $1.2 million has been transferred in patterns that our system flagged as suspicious. Money went to shell companies, overseas accounts, and personal accounts not related to Harper Construction. The business did purchase some equipment, but the documentation shows potentially inflated prices from vendors we can't fully verify. The numbers on the screen blurred together. $1.2 million. More than a third of the total loan. I never saw any of this. I didn't have access to the business accounts. I didn't receive any information about how the loan funds were used. Did your family ever ask you to sign additional documents after the original loan? Transfer requests? Account authorizations? No, just the original loan paperwork. Raymond and Patricia exchanged a look that I couldn't interpret. Raymond closed his laptop. Mr. Harper, I'm required to inform you that we're reporting this suspicious activity to federal authorities. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit will likely want to speak with you. Your cooperation today is noted and appreciated. Your attorney can contact me if you have additional information to provide. Aaron spoke up. My client is fully willing to cooperate. We'd like the bank to formally acknowledge that Floyd had no involvement in business operations and received no financial benefit from these suspicious transactions. We'll include that in our report, Raymond said. We left the bank around 3 o'clock. Aaron drove me back to his office and made me coffee while we talked through next steps. You did well in there. You were honest and straightforward. That's exactly what you need to be. The bank can see you weren't involved in the day-to-day operations. Now, we need to make sure the FBI sees that too. My phone rang. My father's number. I showed Aaron. Answer it. Put it on speaker. Don't let him bully you. And don't admit to anything. I answered. Hello. The bank called me about a fraud investigation. My father's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. They said you went in and talked to them. You went to the feds? You're turning on your own family? I responded to their request for an interview, Dad. They flagged irregularities with the loan. I told them the truth, that I wasn't involved in the business and didn't know how the money was being used. You're destroying us. Don't you understand that? They're going to shut us down. They're going to press charges. You're sending your own father to prison. What did you do with the loan money? Silence. Dad, what did you do? Where did $1.2 million go? We used it for investments, for business opportunities. That's not fraud. That's just business. Lying to the bank about how loan funds are used is fraud. Moving money to offshore accounts is money laundering. Whatever you did, I wasn't part of it. You ungrateful, selfish piece of trash. After everything I did for you, raising you, providing for you, This is how you repay me? By betraying your family? You cut me out of the family first, Dad. You sent me a text message. Remember? He hung up. By Friday evening, the situation had somehow gotten worse. Derek started his campaign against me. He called my employer's human resources department and filed a complaint claiming I was under investigation for financial fraud. He contacted my boss directly, sending an email with the subject line, "Employee Criminal Activity." Monday morning, my manager called me into her office. Susan was 48, level-headed, someone I'd always respected. She looked uncomfortable. "Floyd, I received some concerning communications about you over the weekend. I need to ask you directly. Are you under investigation for fraud?" I'd prepared for this with Aaron. I explained the situation honestly. I'd co-signed a family loan 3 years ago, recently discovered my family had misused the funds, and was cooperating with investigators as a witness, not a suspect. I showed her the bank's email requesting my cooperation, not accusing me of wrongdoing. Susan listened carefully. "I appreciate your honesty. However, given the sensitivity of this situation and our company's reputation, I'm going to have to place you on temporary paid leave while this gets resolved. It's not a reflection on your work performance. It's just procedure." I understand. I cleaned out my desk that afternoon and drove home in a daze, temporarily unemployed, my family imploding, federal investigators circling. This couldn't get worse. Then my mother called. Sandra's voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. No tears this time. No pleading. Just ice. "I want you to know that I'm ashamed to call you my son. Your father worked his entire life to build that business. He sacrificed everything for this family. And you're throwing him to the wolves to save yourself. Mom, he committed fraud. He stole money from a bank loan. He made investments to grow the business. You're twisting it to make him look like a criminal. The bank's fraud department and the FBI disagree with you. You've always been jealous of Derek. Always wanted to be the special one, the successful one. You couldn't stand that Derek was running the business, that your father trusted him more than you. So you're destroying all of us out of spite. That's not true. Don't call me anymore, Floyd. Don't come to the house. You're not my son. Not anymore." She hung up. I sat in my apartment that night eating cereal for dinner because I hadn't gone grocery shopping, staring at the wall, wondering how my life had fallen apart so completely in less than a week. One text message from my father. That's all it took to start this avalanche. Tuesday morning brought a certified letter. I signed for it with a sense of dread that proved justified. The envelope contained documents from the FBI requesting my presence for an interview regarding financial crimes investigation 2024-DFW-3847. But it was the second page that made my blood turn to ice. The investigation had expanded. During their review of the loan documents and related accounts, they discovered that someone had forged additional documents in my name. Wire transfer authorizations, account access forms, a business partnership agreement listing me as a 5% partner in Harper Construction LLC, all with my signature, all dated within 6 months after the original loan was approved. I'd never signed any of these documents. I'd never even seen them. But according to these papers, I hadn't just co-signed a loan. I'd been actively involved in the business. I'd authorized the suspicious wire transfers. I'd signed off on moving money to offshore accounts. My family had forged my signature. They'd created a paper trail that made me look like a co-conspirator in their fraud. And if I couldn't prove these were forgeries, I was facing potential federal charges for crimes I didn't commit. They hadn't just betrayed me, they'd framed me. I sat in Aaron's office early Tuesday afternoon with the FBI documents spread across his desk. Aaron had gone pale when I showed them to him, which did nothing to calm my panic. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "If these signatures are forged and you can't prove it, you're looking at potential conspiracy charges. Can we prove they're forged? We need a forensic document examiner, someone who specializes in signature analysis." He was already typing on his computer, searching for experts. "I know someone, Dr. Helen Price. She's testified in federal court dozens of times. Let me call her." While Aaron made calls, I studied the forged documents. The signatures looked like mine at first glance, but something about them felt wrong. The angle was slightly off. The pressure seemed different. But would that be enough to prove forgery in court? Agent Elizabeth Torres called me directly that afternoon. Her voice was professional but not unkind. "Mr. Harper, I'm the lead investigator on this case. I understand your attorney has been in contact with our office. I'd like to schedule a formal interview with you for tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock at our Dallas field office. I'll be there." "Mr. Harper, I want to be clear about something. Right now, you're not a target of this investigation. You're a person of interest. How this proceeds depends largely on your cooperation and the evidence we gather. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. See you tomorrow." Aaron and I drove to Dallas Wednesday morning in his car. The FBI field office was a modern building with tight security. We checked in, surrendered our phones, and were escorted to an interview room. Agent Torres was in her early 40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her partner, Agent Marcus Grant, was younger, maybe mid-30s, and took notes throughout the interview. They showed me copies of the forged documents on a laptop screen. "Do you recognize these signatures? They look like my signature, but I never signed these documents. I've never seen them before today." "You're saying someone forged your signature?" "Yes. Agent Torres studied me. Who would have had access to documents with your genuine signature to copy?" The answer made me sick. My father. After I signed the original loan paperwork, I left some personal documents at my parents' house by accident. Tax returns, a copy of my driver's license, old bank statements. I asked him to mail them back, but he never did. He said he couldn't find them. "So your father had access to documents containing your signature?" "Yes." "Who in your family would have the skill and opportunity to forge these documents?" "My brother Derek. He lived at home until about 2 years ago. He would have had access to anything my father kept." They asked me dozens more questions over the next 2 hours. When did I last have contact with my family? What was my relationship with the business? Had I ever received money from Harper Construction? Did I have any knowledge of the suspicious transfers? I answered everything honestly. By the time we left, I felt wrung out and exhausted. Dr. Helen Price examined the forged documents that afternoon in Aaron's office. She was 61, with gray hair pulled back in a bun and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She studied the signatures under magnification, measured angles and pressure points, compared them to samples of my genuine signature. "These are good forgeries," she said after nearly an hour. "Whoever did this had practice. But there are inconsistencies. The pressure distribution is wrong. Your natural signature shows more pressure at the beginning of strokes, tapering at the end. These forgeries show more even pressure throughout, suggesting someone was copying carefully rather than signing naturally. The angle is also slightly off. You tend to slant your signature about 15 degrees to the right. These slant closer to 20 degrees. Can you testify to that in court?" "Absolutely. But I'll need more time for a complete analysis. I'll also need multiple samples of your genuine signature from different time periods for comparison." We provided everything she requested: birth certificate, old checks, college enrollment forms, employment contracts, anything with my signature. Thursday morning, my cousin Nathan called. He was one of the few family members who'd stayed neutral through all of this. "Floyd, Derek wants to meet with you. He says it's important." "Why would I meet with Derek?" "He says he wants to explain some things. To clear the air." "I think he's scared, Floyd. The FBI has been interviewing everyone." Aaron advised against it, but I needed to know what Derek wanted. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop Thursday afternoon, with Aaron present as my attorney. Derek looked terrible. His face was drawn, his eyes shadowed with lack of sleep. He'd lost weight. When he sat down across from me, his hands shook. "Thank you for meeting me." "What do you want, Derek?" "I need to tell you the truth. About the forgeries." He glanced at Aaron nervously. "This is off the record, right?" "Nothing is off the record when the FBI is investigating federal crimes," Aaron said flatly. Derek's face crumpled. "I'm going to prison, aren't I?" "That depends on what you did and whether you cooperate with investigators. Dad made me do it." "The forgeries." "He said we needed a backup plan. He said if anything went wrong with the business, we could claim you were involved." that you'd authorized everything. I didn't want to, but he insisted. He's my father. I thought I had to do what he said. You forged my signature on multiple documents? I asked. Yes. I'm sorry. I practiced for weeks to get it right. Dad kept your old tax returns and bank statements. I traced your signature over and over until I could copy it without the original. And the wire transfer authorizations? The partnership agreement? All me. Dad told me what to create. He had templates. I just filled them out and forged your signature. Why would you do that to me? Because Dad convinced me you thought you were better than us, that you looked down on the family business. He made me believe you'd eventually betray us anyway. So we needed protection. Insurance. Derek's voice broke. I was wrong. About everything. I know that now. But I can't take it back. Are you willing to tell the FBI this? Aaron asked. If I do, will they go easier on me? Possibly. Cooperation can result in reduced charges. But you're admitting to multiple federal crimes. You need your own attorney before you say anything else. Derek stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. For everything. The lies I told Dad about you. The forgeries. All of it. He left. Friday brought my father to my apartment. But he didn't come alone. He brought 2 workers from the construction company. Large men in work clothes who stood on either side of him like enforcers. I opened the door but didn't remove the chain. You need to come with us, my father said. We're going to straighten this out. I'm not going anywhere with you. You're going to recant your statements to the FBI. You're going to tell them this was all a misunderstanding. That's not going to happen. One of the workers, a man with a shaved head and tattoos on his forearms, pushed against the door. Let us in. Leave now or I'm calling the police. My father's face twisted with rage. You do this, and you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I promise you that. The worker shoved harder, breaking the chain. They pushed into my apartment. The man grabbed me by the shirt and slammed me against the wall. My neighbor across the hall heard the commotion and screamed. Someone called the police. The police arrived within 5 minutes. By then, the workers had backed off, but the damage was done. There were witnesses. Broken chain lock. My torn shirt. The police took statements from everyone. My father tried to claim it was a family dispute, that they'd just come to talk. But the neighbor had seen them force their way in. She'd heard the threats. The police arrested my father and both workers for assault and breaking and entering. Aaron filed for a restraining order that afternoon. Between the earlier break-in by Derek and now this assault, the judge granted it immediately. My father, Derek, and my mother were all ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me. Saturday morning, Gerald the accountant called me. His voice was terrified. Floyd, you need to know something. I've been cooperating with the FBI too. I gave them everything. All the financial records. But there's something I just discovered. Something I missed before. What? Your father took out a second loan 6 months ago. Another $1.5 million from a different bank. And Floyd, he put your name on it. As the primary borrower this time, not just a cosigner. You personally borrowed $1.5 million for the business. At least that's what the paperwork says. My vision went dark at the edges. That's impossible. I never applied for a loan. I know. But the bank has an application with your signature, your personal information, your income details, your tax returns, everything. Your father has been making the payments so far. But if he stops, they'll come after you for the full amount. How much do I owe total? Between the original loan as co-signer and this new one as primary borrower, over $4 million. I hung up the phone and sat down on my couch before my legs gave out. $4 million. My father had taken out a second loan using my stolen identity. He'd forged an entire loan application, and I was legally liable for the debt. My entire financial life was destroyed. Monday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. Aaron filed emergency motions with both banks, but the legal system moved slowly. The damage was done. My name was on loan documents for over $4 million in debt I never knew existed. We met with the second bank, a regional institution called Lone Star Commercial Lending. The loan officer, a nervous woman named Rachel, pulled up my account. Mr. Harper, According to our records, you applied for this loan 6 months ago for business purposes. The application shows your income at $120,000 annually, verified through tax returns you provided. Your credit score at the time was 785. You provided employment verification, personal references, everything we required. I never applied for this loan. Someone stole my identity and forged my application. Rachel showed us copies of the documents. My signature on every page. My social security number. Copies of my driver's license and passport. Tax returns from 2 years ago. Employment verification letter on my company's letterhead. Where did you verify my employment? Aaron asked. We called the number provided on the verification letter. Spoke with someone in human resources who confirmed Mr. Harper's employment and income. That number likely went to a cell phone controlled by the person committing the fraud, Aaron said. My client never authorized any of this. This is identity theft. Rachel looked stricken. We have procedures to prevent this. We verified everything. You verified forged documents. The bank agreed to freeze the account and launch their own investigation. But the loan was still valid under law until proven fraudulent. I was still legally liable. Agent Torres called me that afternoon. Mr. Harper, we need to talk. Your brother Derek has contacted us. He wants to cooperate fully in exchange for a plea agreement. He's willing to testify against your father and provide evidence of the forgeries. What kind of evidence? Everything. He kept copies of the original documents before he forged them. He has text messages from your father with instructions. He even recorded some of their conversations as insurance in case your father tried to blame him. Derek was smart enough to protect himself, so he knew he was committing crimes. Yes, but he's also our best witness. With his cooperation, we can build an airtight case against your father. And what happens to me? Our forensic accountant has reviewed all the financial records. It's clear you received no benefit from the fraud. You had no access to the business accounts. You didn't participate in any of the suspicious transactions. Combined with the evidence of identity theft and forgery, we're prepared to formally clear you. You're a victim, not a suspect. Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down. Thank you. We'll need you to testify when this goes to trial. Are you prepared to do that? Yes, absolutely. Federal prosecutors filed charges against Marcus Harper on Thursday. Wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Each count carried a potential sentence of up to 20 years. The FBI arrested him at his home early in the morning. My mother called me, sobbing, begging me to help. I hung up without saying a word. Derek received his plea deal. 5 years of probation, full restitution to the banks, and 1,000 hours of community service. He had to testify against our father and provide all evidence. In exchange, he avoided prison time. The banks formally acknowledged that I'd been a victim of identity theft. Both loans were removed from my credit report. The fraud alerts would remain for 7 years. But my credit score began to recover. Within 30 days, it climbed back to 780. But the damage to my employment and reputation took longer to fix. I'd been on leave for 3 weeks. My company wanted me back, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone looked at me differently now. The guy whose family committed fraud against him. The guy with the criminal father. Derek's frivolous lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice after the FBI's report cleared me. Aaron filed a countersuit against both Derek and my father for damages. Legal fees, lost wages, emotional distress. The amount requested was $250,000. My father's attorney tried to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. They settled for the full amount, to be paid from the liquidation of Harper Construction's assets in bankruptcy. My former employer called 3 weeks after my leave started. Susan's voice was apologetic. Floyd, we've reviewed the FBI's findings. Your clearance has been confirmed. We'd like you to come back. Your position is waiting. I appreciate that, but I've been offered another position. Better pay, better opportunities. I'm taking it. It was true. A competitor had reached out. Someone who'd heard about the situation and wanted to hire me anyway. They saw my cooperation with federal investigators as a sign of integrity. The new salary was $160,000, $40,000 more than before. My father pleaded guilty to avoid trial. The evidence was too strong, his own son's testimony too damning. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in federal prison. He was 60 years old. He'd be 72 when he got out, if he lived that long. The court ordered full restitution, $4.2 million. He'd never be able to pay it, but the judgment would follow him forever. Harper Construction was liquidated in bankruptcy. The assets sold for pennies on the dollar. The company my father had spent 25 years building was gone. 23 employees lost their jobs. Subcontractors and suppliers lost money. The shopping center that had sued for the defective roof work got a partial settlement. My mother filed for divorce while my father was awaiting sentencing. She lost the family home in bankruptcy proceedings. Last I heard through extended family, she'd moved in with her sister in Oklahoma. She never tried to contact me, never apologized. In her version of events, I'd sent my father to prison. I'd destroyed the family business. I was the villain. Some of my extended family believed her. Cousins I'd grown up with stopped responding to messages. My aunt and uncle unfriended me on social media. Others reached out quietly, apologetically. They said they should have seen the dysfunction years ago. They should have said something when they watched my father favor Derek and diminish me. Too little, too late. But I appreciated the acknowledgement. Nathan, my cousin who'd stayed neutral, told me what the family gatherings were like now. Awkward silences, divided loyalties. Some people blamed me. Some blamed my father. Most just wanted to pretend it never happened. You did the right thing, Nathan said. I want you to know that. Your dad was stealing. Derek was helping him. They tried to frame you. You protected yourself. Anyone who blames you for that doesn't understand what actually happened. Thanks, Nathan. That means a lot. 2 years after the FBI investigation concluded, Derek reached out. He'd completed his probation, stayed out of trouble, found work at a different construction company. He asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, mostly out of curiosity. He looked different, older, humbler. The arrogance I'd grown up with was gone, replaced by something that looked like genuine remorse. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, he said, but I need you to hear it anyway. I was wrong about everything. I was jealous of you my whole life. You were smarter, more successful, and that made me feel like a failure. Dad used that. He convinced me you thought you were better than us. Looking back, I can see he was manipulating both of us, keeping us divided so he could control us. But I still made my own choices. I forged your signature. I lied about you. I tried to destroy your reputation, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Why did you keep evidence against Dad? Because part of me knew what we were doing was wrong. I thought if things fell apart, I'd need proof that I was just following orders. Cowardly, I know, but it ended up proving your innocence too. So maybe one good thing came from it. What do you want from me, Derek? Nothing. I just wanted you to know I understand what I did. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted to take responsibility. I appreciate that. I hope you build a good life. You too, Floyd. You deserved better than what our family gave you. We parted ways in the parking lot. I never heard from him again. 3 years after my father sent that text message cutting me out of the family, I sat on the back porch of my new house in Denver, watching the sun set behind the mountains. The house was mine, purchased with a mortgage I qualified for easily with my restored credit and stable income. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a garage for the car I'd bought 6 months earlier. Amy was inside making dinner. We'd met through work 2 years ago. Started dating slowly, carefully. I told her everything about my family on our 4th date, expecting her to run. Instead, she took my hand and said, "That must have been hell. I'm sorry they did that to you, but it sounds like you handled it exactly right." She stayed. We moved in together after a year. Got engaged 6 months after that. The wedding was planned for next spring, small and intimate, just close friends, and the few family members who'd stood by me. My career had flourished. The new company promoted me to director of engineering. I managed a team of 15 people. My salary had climbed to $190,000. I had savings, investments, a retirement plan. Financial security I'd built entirely on my own, without family help or interference. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. For your information, Mom is planning another Harper family reunion. Big event, trying to bring everyone together. Derek will be there. You're not invited. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. Thanks for the heads up. 5 years. 5 years since my father had sent me that cold text message ending our relationship. 5 years since I'd typed back a single word. Understood. At the time, I'd thought removing myself from the loan was just protecting my finances. I hadn't known I was actually protecting myself from fraud, identity theft, and potential federal charges. I hadn't known my family was using me as a scapegoat for crimes they were committing. That text message, as painful as it was, had been a gift. It freed me to see the truth. I thought about my father in federal prison, serving year 7 of his 12-year sentence. I'd received one letter from him, forwarded through Nathan about a year after his sentencing. He wrote that he was sorry for what happened, that he'd made mistakes, that he hoped someday I could forgive him. But the letter never actually took responsibility. It talked about business decisions that went wrong, about pressure and stress, about things getting out of hand. It never said, I stole your identity. I forged your signature. I tried to frame you for my crimes. It never acknowledged the fundamental betrayal. I never wrote back. My mother had never reached out at all. In her mind, I'd betrayed the family. I was the one who'd turned my father into the FBI, who'd testified against him, who'd caused his imprisonment. Never mind that he'd committed the crimes. Never mind that he'd stolen from me. In her version of reality, family loyalty meant covering up criminal behavior. I'd chosen the truth instead, and that made me the traitor. I was okay with that. Amy came out onto the porch, carrying 2 glasses of wine. She handed me one and sat beside me, her head resting on my shoulder. You're thinking about your family, she said. It wasn't a question. How did you know? You get this look. Distant, but also resolute. Like you're making peace with something painful. Nathan told me there's another family reunion. I'm not invited. How do you feel about that? I thought about it honestly. Relieved. Sad for what could have been, but relieved for what is. You know you have a family now, right? Me, your friends here. The people who actually care about you. That's family too. She was right. I'd built a chosen family in Denver. Friends from work who'd become like siblings. Neighbors who invited us to barbecues. Amy's parents, who'd welcomed me warmly despite my complicated history. These people knew my story and valued me anyway. They celebrated my successes without jealousy. They supported me without conditions. That's what family should be. I thought about the chain of events that had started with that text message. If my father hadn't cut me out, I might never have removed myself from the loan. I might never have discovered the fraud. I might have been implicated in federal crimes. My credit could have been destroyed permanently. I could have faced prison time for something I didn't do. Instead, his rejection had saved me. It forced me to protect myself, which uncovered the truth. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually a blessing in disguise. You're smiling, Amy said. I just realized something. That text message 5 years ago, the one that cut me out of the family, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. How so? It forced me to see them clearly, to recognize that I wasn't valued or respected, and it gave me permission to protect myself without guilt. If they'd kept me in the family, kept me feeling obligated, I might have stayed tied to their sinking ship. I might have gone down with them. So you're grateful? In a weird way, yes. They taught me what I didn't want to be. They showed me that blood relation doesn't equal loyalty or love, and they freed me to build something better. Amy raised her wine glass. To terrible families and the better lives we build without them. I clinked my glass against hers. To chosen families and second chances. We sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned from orange to purple to deep blue. Inside, the timer on the oven beeped. Amy went to check on dinner while I stayed outside for a moment longer. I thought about the lessons this experience had taught me. That protecting yourself isn't selfish when the alternative is letting others destroy you. That family is defined by behavior, not biology. That sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. That the people who should love you can sometimes be your biggest threat. And that choosing truth over loyalty, when loyalty means complicity in wrongdoing, is always the right choice. 5 years ago, I'd texted back understood. I understood they didn't want me. Now I understood something more important. I didn't need their approval to be whole. I didn't need their acceptance to have value. I didn't need their version of family to have a home. I already had everything I needed. "Floyd, dinner's ready," Amy called from inside. I stood up, took one last look at the Denver skyline, and walked into my house. My home, built on truth, protected by boundaries, filled with people who actually loved me. Some families are born, some are chosen. I'd chosen to be my own person first, and everything else had fallen into place after that. And that single word I'd texted 5 years ago, understood, had changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. I understood their rejection. I understood my value. I understood that real family doesn't abandon you for protecting yourself. I understood that I was better off without them. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting yourself? How did you handle it? What would you have done in my situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family betrayal and building a better life. Share this with anyone who might need to hear that it's okay to protect yourself, even from family. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your worth isn't determined by how your family treats you. You deserve respect, honesty, and genuine love. Don't settle for less, even from the people who share your DNA. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, sometimes understanding that you're better off without toxic people is the first step toward real happiness.